You love being blonde. What is it about being blonde that makes you feel more you?
I think it actually doesn't make me feel more me. People think I'm nicer than I actually am. People think I'm warmer than I actually am because of the blonde hair. I think that's been really important because, I'm never been that interested in being nice, but I am very kind. I started working more when I dyed my hair blonde. So this was really a business decision for me. They see me and then they see a blonde actress and I would always lose out the final. And finally I was like, is it that? And so I'm like, if it's just that, then I'll dye my hair blonde, which I did. I guess you'll know I've really made it in my career and I feel really comfortable if I go back to being a brunette.
Hello, and welcome to another episode of Obsessed the Podcast. I'm Kevin Fallon, here to guide you through all the TV shows, movies, and pop culture nonsense that we think is unmissable. And today's guest is one of the funniest people and one of my favorite actresses. It's Diane Raphael. She currently stars in Elle, the prequel to Legally Blonde. You might also know her from Grace and Frankie, where she starred alongside Jane Fonda and Lily Tomlin. She's currently in the hilarious movie Stop That Train with RuPaul. And she co-hosts a very popular podcast, How Did This Get Made, with her husband, Paul Scheer, and Jason Mantzoukas. We had the best time chatting. I can't wait for you to hear it. Here's my interview with Diane Raphael. Hello, Diane. How are you?
I'm doing so great. How are you?
I'm doing so great now, too, because I get to chat with you.
God bless.
Not to start by buttering you up, but to completely start by buttering you up.
I feel like it's a great way to start.
I mean, why not? Just go in there. I was at the Elle premiere, and I have to say, the thing that everyone was talking about at that party was just how remarkable you were in that show. Like, it was the talking point of the party to everyone that I talked to. The first thing they said was, my God, Diane was so good in this.
That is music to my ears. There's so much to take away from the show. So that is very, very kind and generous. Thank you for sharing that. I was so kind of hovering above reality that night. So I barely spoke to a person.
Yeah. You looked great also in your pink dress. Very, very on theme for Legally Blonde.
Had to.
I imagine that it must be such an interesting experience doing press for a show like this where there are so many quotes and famous moments that everyone wants to talk to you about. I can only imagine the amount of times you've had to hear it's hard and grin as if it's the first time someone thought to bring it up to you.
You know what? It is. I've never been a part of something that's had a life before, and has been a piece of just a cultural touchstone that is a part of a world. And so I guess everything I've done so far has been completely original. But it's just this is a brand new experience to be a part of something where people are coming in with so many feelings and so much loyalty toward the original movie. And so Elle Woods means so much to so many people that it's been really, and she does to me as well. So I join everyone else there, but it has been such a different experience for me. As my parents used to always ask me, like, why didn't you do one of those Marvel movies? As though like I was getting a million offers and turning. I'm like, yeah, Dad, I'd love to. But it has been really neat to be a part of something that just coming into it, people have such strong attachments to the world. I think I was really lucky that my character didn't really have, I mean, the performance is iconic in the movie, but the real estate is very limited. So I was really able to create what I wanted to, and worked with Laura Kittrell and Caroline Drews, our showrunners, but I didn't have that I guess that same pressure. But it was special to have people want to talk about the bend and snap, want to talk about my favorite line, their favorite lines. There's just so much. Yeah, the movies mean so much to so many.
I would imagine that for someone who's a part of this Legally Blonde universe now, bending over must feel totally different.
And I'm bending over all the time, Kevin. I'm always bending over. I'm always bent over. When I go to different places, I usually, instead of saying hello, I'll bend over instead of a handshake. I'll turn around and bend over. So it's been, yeah, I finally feel like it's welcomed.
Yeah, I think that's a trend that should catch on. I think you are pioneering a movement that I'm very much in support of.
Thank you. Well, thank you so much. Yeah, it hasn't always been easy, but I finally feel like the time is right.
Yeah. I do feel like Legally Blonde is one of the most, if not the most, like, oh, this is on, I'm gonna watch it movies of like when you're channel surfing and it's a Sunday afternoon and you just happen upon it midway through and you have to sit down and watch it. Are you one of the people who are like me and so many of people that I know who have seen this movie like 300 times accidentally on a summer weekend?
So, yes, I am, but I actually didn't go back to it to prepare for this. Um, Mainly because I didn't want to get strange ideas in my head. And, I know every actor has like a different approach to this. And I know Lexi watched it 5 million times, but she was really embodying character and so that was a different task she had. But I did not go back to it right before shooting the first season, because I didn't want to have ideas or rhythms, or I didn't want to really remember too much. But yeah, the movie is such a comfort watch. I've seen it 8 million times. I saw it in the theater when it came out, but I've seen it 8 million times. It's like you go to Dry Bar, it's gonna be on. You can trust and believe that. Oh, we and and it's really, I mean, what's been nice also to hear about Elle is, I know that for so many people right now, it's a very comforting show to watch. There's something very sweet about the show, and charming, and I think it's just a nice comforting show for people to lay their eyes upon in this world right now. And I feel the same way about the movie, and I think I love being people used to say that to me about Grace and Frankie, like, oh, it's just such a warm, it makes me feel so good to watch it. And I've been in that space in my life too, where you turn to shows at specific times for comfort and to be with these characters and the world. And it's actually quite important to have those shows. And I know what those shows were for me when I really needed them. Strangely, it was My Life on the D List with Kathy Gray. I don't know why, but she got me through. She got me through some dark times,
That show is amazing.
and also is sort of the blueprint for a lot that came after it. And but I consumed every second of it during a very dark period. Um, but yeah, I will always turn on Legally Blonde.
Yeah. It is very comforting, but it's also for me a little horrifying because I now have to come to peace with the fact that a 90s set TV show is a period piece, which is horrifying to me.
It doesn't make sense.
Yeah, like how has time passed that quickly?
I don't know. I don't care for it.
This week's episode is sponsored by Wildmen with Dylan Sprouse and Brendan Columbus. It's a new casual video podcast hang in a basement bar where Dylan and Brendan invite you into their group chat. The two have been best friends since college and have spent years roasting each other, arguing over everything, and somehow staying incredibly close through it all. Now, with Dylan getting ready to become a dad and Brendan planning his wedding, they've got even more to joke about and absolutely no patience for each other's nonsense. Every episode feels like you're sitting in a room with lifelong friends as they swap stories and riff on everything from pop culture to Pokemon cards, D&D, and comics, and bring on friends like Barbara Palvin, Cole Sprouse, KJ Appa, Jojo Siwa, Raven Simone, and more. Because so many of the guests are people they actually know, the conversations are relaxed, funny, and feel a lot more real than your typical celebrity interview. Check out Wildmen with Dylan Sprouse and Brendan Columbus starting July 14th on YouTube or wherever you get your podcasts. So I understand that you were actually cast in this fairly quickly, from what I've read. You had a chemistry read, and that was pretty much, sewn up for you. Why do you think that you specifically were like such a great fit for a part like this?
You know what? I honestly don't know, Kevin. I don't know. I don't know. I think that. because I'm so used to kind of clawing my way through every role, and I'm like, oh, who's gonna drop out? Like, will Lake Bell pass on this, and then maybe I can get in there? I'm so used to being cast after someone had a scheduling conflict, and it's like, can you show up tomorrow? And the answer is always yes, I will. So my experience has always been, or for a really long time, that I've been having to prove and work really hard to get something that has this kind of scope and was this significant. And so or at the very least, auditioned multiple times. This came quite easily. And sometimes, though, it's funny when the creative team believes in you and wants you, which I did. I knew that going into the chemistry read with Lexi, that it was mine to lose, that they weren't seeing anyone else. Like, I was being told all these things, and it's so nice. And also, I'm like, wow, if I blow this, you know what I mean? If I will just honestly move to Montana and leave because I did know that there was so much belief in me that I could do it. I will say, though, I think, one of the nice things about doing comedy or being a part of that community is you get a lot of opportunities to get up at bat. And sometimes I think people say about my career, like, oh, I've just seen you in a million different things. And I'm like, yeah, because that world is actually very small, turns out. And so we all kind of cast each other. Um, but you just continue. I think what I'm really proud of is I've continued to just show up and do the best I can. And there have been certain directors who I think have really believed in me. Jason Moore, who did the pilot, is one of them. We did a failed pilot, not failed. We did a pilot that didn't move forward together years ago. And it's just, I'm always reminded, like, oh, you just kind of have to trust, because I was devastated when that pilot didn't move forward. I was like, well, that's a wrap on me. I had to lead in the pilot, it didn't get picked up. Like, it's lights out over here. And of course it wasn't, but you can feel that way, that everything is everything. And the gift of aging, I guess, is knowing, no, actually, when you just consistently do the work and do the best you can and are a professional and nice person, that, people will continue to give you shots. Um, and so there's so much, that's so negative about our industry. And I don't disagree with a lot of it, but there is something I have found that's really positive and lovely, which is you stay in touch with these people, and you kind of you just have to keep showing up, and sometimes you're really rewarded. I look at Jeff Hiller's career right now, who I've known since UCB days back in whatever, and I'm like, God damn it, that's a guy who could not have been lovelier always, who's brilliant, obviously, but who's just having this amazing moment and so deserved.
When he won that Emmy, I think I like cheered so loudly from my couch I could hear me in New Jersey.
I honestly feel like I won it. It was a very strange experience. I was reacting to it as though I had. I was like, we did it, Joe.
We all won it.
I know, but there are these moments like that in Hollywood where you're like, oh, yes, the right person was rewarded. And I feel really lucky to have been thought of and to have been given this shot. I don't really know why. Sometimes it's better as an actor to not know too much about yourself.
Yeah.
I'm like, the less I know, the better.
Yeah. Well, I think what's interesting too is that you do bring the experience needed to a part like this, because I think there's a version of this character of Eva, Elle's mom, where it would be like the Amy Poehler Mean Girls cool mom character, and that could work in its own way and be funny. But what you bring to it is something so much more nuanced and different, and also still very funny, of course. But I'm curious how you brought more to a part like this that could have been reduced to a type like that.
Well, I do think a lot of that was on the page too. So I read 8 episodes before I even went in to meet with Lexi. So I read the whole. I got to see the entire scope of the character, which is so unusual. But they allowed me to read it, and so I talked to Jason Moore and I talked to Laura and Caroline about their thoughts on her and how ultimately she's created this character that we love so much, Elle, and she's responsible for so much of who she is. And there's so many similarities. But this is a mother-daughter relationship that's positive and so fueled by love, but also complicated. And I really understood that. I mean, that version you're describing, I think would definitely work for a movie, but there's something about it, 8 episodes, and it's an hour long that we're tonally, it doesn't seem like you really want to watch that for that long. Um, right. So I love that I get to do so much comedy and also um, portray this mom who's really loves her daughter and is also wrong sometimes and allowed to be human and very much so awake for the experience of parenting and changing alongside her. I mean, that's something that Lexi and I have actually talked about. Like, oh, sometimes the parents in the YA shows like sort of are in and out, and you don't really get to see just how deeply we grieve over our children getting older and changing and not needing us, and our own failures as a parent and our own lives outside of this and how much is sort of intersecting. So I was so excited to read this very full character. I feel like, yes, like you said, she's given a lot of humanity and could have been done and it could have been very funny, but I don't know if it would have worked for that long, sustained over 8 hours of television.
Yeah. And also, because I'm a big fan of yours, obviously, candidly, I've seen a lot of the characters that you play. And I mean, first of all, clearly you are a very hot person in life.
Thank you for saying it. You hadn't mentioned it, and it was
It
confusing.
was weighing on me that it took this long to bring it up, so I felt like I had to now.
Apology accepted.
On top of being hot, you also are very good at playing hot characters, which I think is a very different thing and a different talent. And I was wondering if you could talk about that, like what it is like to play a character that exudes hotness.
Wow, gosh. I yeah. Okay, well, I think any actor has to access, amongst other things, their fears, their anxieties, their, what brings them joy, their sexuality.
Hmm.
I think that women, a lot of times we're so kind of perceived as sexual beings, like we're like people like men, the male gaze, etc. Like it consumes us as opposed to embodying it, right? And our sensuality and sexuality. And I learned a lot from watching Jane Fonda in scenes who I don't think there's anyone sexier.
Absolutely not.
You know what I mean? And those characters of Grace and Frankie in their 70s were given a lot to play. But Jane somehow played like smart, vulnerable, but also sexual and desiring and wanting. And so I don't know. I just feel like I've had those examples, and Eva, but also Brianna to me is a good example of like there was something very powerful and sexy and sort of there's this ownership that she had over her own body and her own sexuality and yeah, I don't know what to say, but I guess thank you.
I think one of the big talking points surrounding Elle was the fact that this is an origin story of Elle Woods, a character that we know from Legally Blonde, that takes place in Seattle, when I think a lot of people just assumed that this was a Beverly Hills, California high school experience that we were going to be watching. And I'm curious if that surprise reaction surprised you, that people were so, I guess, they raised an eyebrow, I guess, over the fact that her high school experience was in Seattle.
I think that again, there's so much people want so much from a beloved world and character. and they're very protective of it. And so, yeah, I have seen that reaction and I understand it. And like, oh, but if she learned that lesson, well, then why would she learn it again in the movies? Or if this is too similar. Listen, first of all, just go out, just enjoy the show. Just enjoy the show, is what I have to say about that. But also there's something I like about the discourse and reaction, because anybody talking about it is a good thing, and sometimes they feel like franchises or world building has been reserved for very male centered hetero male stories like the Spider-Mans and the thises and the that's, and I know that there's so much fan discourse and feelings being hurt around what did they do to my Spider-Man? What they do to my Indiana Jones? What they do to the Avengers? And is it lore? And is it, canonically, whatever? That to me, having this discourse, even if people are like not totally. First of all, I think most people who were like, wait a second, then continued to watch the show and were like, oh, I love it. Forget it. I don't care. You know what I mean? But Lexi said something really smart, which was also, if only we had to learn a lesson once in our lives, like that would be great and we'd all be better off for it. If only we elected Donald Trump one time and could have learned from that. We seem to have to go over similar things. But Lexi said that, and I thought that's like so smart and so real and so true, right? But 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 again, seeing reaction around taking a female, beloved female character and doing world building around her, I'm like, I'll take any, like, let's all talk about it, because that is usually reserved for the superheroes, for the for the Tom Clancy novel, for all of that. They get that. They get to build out worlds. And we usually just have one. And so for me, I'm excited that there's world building going on with Elle Woods, and ultimately, like, all of the reaction has been so fueled by a love for this character.
Yeah. There's also a beautiful experience that people get to have watching the show, and it's kind of an overwhelming one, which is that you get to see a beloved actor who has passed in their final role. And that's James Van Der Beek, who appears in the series. You don't often get that. You don't get to watch someone be so good at their job after you've already been grieving them. And you wrote a beautiful tribute to him on your Instagram and posted photos of you guys on set. I'm just curious if you could talk just a little bit about what it was like to work with him on now what is the last thing we'll see from him on screen.
I really loved James. I really I feel so honored to have spent that time with him. I also I'm really proud of the work we did together on the show. I watch it and I'm like, oh, he's so easy to have chemistry with. He's so winning. I've talked to Kimberly, his wife, and we just talked about just how goddamn charming he is. And so to see that, I'm like, he was so easy to work with. There was, sometimes there's like, oh, you're getting to know each other and you finish the scenes or you finish working over the course of a couple weeks, couple months, whatever it is, and you're like, oh, I wish we could go back to that first scene because now I know you a lot better and now I feel connected to you. It wasn't like that with him from the get-go. The first scene, I was like, oh, wow, he is so locked in and he's so easy to be with. And we had a lot of fun. And one of the things, we talked a lot about, obviously, our children and how much he loved being a dad. But also, he also just loved being an actor. And there was one night we went out with one of our directors, Sammy Cohen, and Tom Everett Scott was there, Matt Oberg, who plays the principal, and Zoe Lister-Jones was there. And because she's married to Sammy in real life. And so, and James came out with us and we just had this dinner where we got to just nerd out about acting and our craft and like how we just laugh and these are the things that are so fun about being an actor when you're on location and you get to spend that time with each other. And it really does feel like you're in summer camp. And he was a part of that. And we walked home that night and he was like, God, I haven't been able to do that. I just love that. I love that. And I said, I know, it was so much fun. And those are the really special experiences. You build these weird little communities and families on set. And I'm just really, I just had a ball with him. And I feel very grateful to have worked with him. And I'm so happy that so many fans of his are responding and seeing it and loving it. I think it's hard to see him, but it's also people are so excited to see him in this role.
Like I said, it's a really overwhelming, but also just a really nice thing to, like when he shows up, you go, ah, and then you just get so happy that you get to watch him again. And I know that earlier I had joked about how horrifying it is that the show is set in the 90s and that it's a period piece. But I am curious what it was like for you to be transported back to the 90s and if it like surfaced anything about how you were and what you were like and how you dressed in the 90s, if it like brought back those memories.
I, you know, I was the age that Elle Woods is in this year. So that was something Lexi and I talked about a lot. I'm like, just, I was this exact age, listening to this exact music. No, everything that's going on, I experienced at this age, your character is. And so that was a little weird. Um, but I think one of the fun things to touch down on, and I think one of the things people are responding to is not having any cell phones, not having any social media. The internet was like such a tiny little thing at that point. There's some jokes about it, but just I think what people are really responding to, especially young people who are watching the show, is just like, oh, it's so nice to just be present with each other, to have no sort of escape into. And I think in scenes in real life, people can very easily get out of uncomfortable situations by looking at their phone and seeing what's going on because something usually is. So there's something that's just really wonderful about being in that time where nothing's pulling you in another direction. You're just there. So that I loved. And it was really fun. I love the clothes. One of the things I love about the wardrobe, Sarah Biblo, our costume designer, I talked a lot about this, is like my character, Eva Woods, like dresses up for everything. There's no athleisure. There's nothing's casual. And I loved that. I loved being a part of that. It was really nice to know that every day I was going to come onto set and like get fully dressed from head to toe. Nothing, everything is that serious with her and with Elle. So that piece of it was really fun.
Yeah, it was really fun seeing the pink against all of the like the black of everyone else and the plaid of everyone else and the flannel of everyone else, but also the sort of dampness of Seattle. To have that like pop of pink with you and Lexi everywhere it's like a really great like visual trick.
Totally. And Jason Moore, I mean, I remember seeing the like lookbooks and everything he created for the show and the visual language of it and just seeing that pink umbrella in the crowd as she walks through, I thought was so powerful. And I remember being I remember grunge. I remember where I was when Kurt Cobain died. Like these are all sort of like such formative moments. And I remember dressing with like a flannel tied around my waist and the feeling of like, you do not, I mean, for me growing up in my high school or middle school, whenever it was, there was this, I had a Grateful Dead t-shirt and I remember I wanted to wear it and I got it because I thought I loved the colors. And my older sister was like, you can't wear that unless you know the songs. And I was like, oh, and she's like, if anyone asks you, say your favorite song is Truckin'. And I was like, okay. But that pressure of like, I don't want to be a poser. So all of that stuff, like I just really resonated with. I was like, this is real. Like you get your ass handed to you if you did not know the music.
Yeah. Um, I would like to do an exercise with you. I would like for you to pretend that I am on my deathbed and you feel like you cannot let this poor gay man die without telling him the best story that you have about Jane Fonda and Lily Tomlin.
Okay. Well, one of my favorite things, and I don't think I've ever shared this publicly, but my favorite thing about the two of them, aside from just like who they are in the world, what they've risked of themselves, what Jane has risked of herself personally, professionally, to do what she believes in, what she's still doing, how she, just spends her privilege literally every second of every day to create a better world for the future and our children. But so there's that. But one of the things that I loved about the two of them is how much they used voice to text on their cell phones, both of them. Okay. So both of them would be just an fully delivered full voice, tell Audrey that I can't make it on Wednesday, period. If full paragraphs. If you want to ask her if she can reschedule to Thursday, I am open to that. Period. But would that work for her? Question mark. Just full. And then sometimes so it was like anything from that to also like my makeup artist of 30 years is dead. Period. Send. Just like also just hearing the craziest things. So it was just absolutely delightful to see. And I was like, you know what? Fuck it. I don't want to see the two of you. You're legends. You shouldn't be typing on this little screen, And so it was just, and sometimes the two of them would be talking, doing that at the same time in the chairs next to each other. And then one of their voices was going into that one. And then they would yell at each other. It was just like absolutely delightful.
There should have been a show just filming that.
I seriously, everything was voice to text. Yep.
I am curious because, I mean, God, I loved Grace and Frankie so much. It was such a great show. And I'm curious, what do you think that show understood about female friendship and how to portray that on television that Hollywood still kind of like doesn't get? Like it, even though that show did it so well, I feel like it hasn't become more of a thing.
There was the Golden Girls, and then which was my favorite show, and then there was Grace and Frankie. But I think where you're right, Hollywood's missing, and Grace and Frankie is a giant hit, so they shouldn't miss it. They should know that it's what we want. Women, we get so much better as we get older, and we have so much more to offer, and so I think that's what is kind of missing from you just representation and what we're given. The truth is we are social creatures. We connect with each other. Whether that's playing mahjong or playing tennis or going out to dinner, we arrive in packs and groups and we hold on to each other and we are with each other through so many huge times in life. And it's a very intimate relationship. And, I don't know if it's, it just feels very specific to women that we can sit next to someone another woman on the plane. And, 5 minutes later, I'm telling her about my miscarriage and, the death of my father. Like we're going deep so quickly. So there's just this, there's just this way that we can interact that's so deep and so intimate and also so funny that I think that there's a misconception, and this is across the board, by the way, that, oh, younger women won't follow them. Grace and Frankie proved that's not true. Or the characters need to be the exact age of that 18 to whatever it is, 30 group that we really want to sell to. That's the, number we really want. The truth is, we will follow other stories. We'll follow male stories. We'll follow women as just an audience. We'll go anywhere. There's just data to prove that. We don't need. And so what I was always so surprised by is how many women in their 20s would come up to me and do like, oh my God, I love Grace and Frankie. I love those characters. I want that beach house. I want to do that with my girlfriends. I want, it was so quietly subversive, that show, because it really did show a new kind of family structure that was outside of, I think, what is still drilled into us, that we have to be married with kids. It posited another way to do life, which might be with your girlfriends in a beach house retiring. And I think just that opening was so refreshing to so many women. But in general, I think Hollywood can learn that when you tell really good stories, like, doesn't matter who it is, doesn't matter what age, race, gender, sexual, whatever, we will follow. And so, yeah, I really hope there's more.
I also love how like for a person like me who's always been anxious and dramatic about getting older and aging, it made me for the first time be like, wait, I kind of want to like leapfrog through the hell of what I'm going through right now and just be the old gay with my best friend in a house on the beach. Like I just want to get to that point of life instead of just like dreading getting older.
Yeah, and I think certainly that's true for everyone, and also in particular women. We don't make as much money. We don't, we actually literally lose currency as we get older. And so there's something very terrifying about it, where sometimes men can kind of age into it in a different way. We just continue culturally to continue to lose. And so the show posits another narrative, which is we can gain from this experience. Like you said, it can be something to really look forward to. We can date, we can start businesses like they do on the show. We can, live a whole other life and be excited for that chapter.
Yeah. One of the things I want to talk to you about, because I love how much you love being blonde. It's something that I've read you talking about in the past. And I mean, obviously, you're a natural blonde.
No toy.
Yeah. What is it about being blonde that you think might inject a different kind of energy in you and like might actually be the thing that makes you feel more you?
Well, I think it actually doesn't make me feel more me. I think it softens who I very naturally am. And I think that's really important. So I have found that people think I'm nicer than I actually am. People think I'm warmer than I actually am because of the blonde hair. And so I'm more inviting. And I think that's been really important because it's not me. And I'm never been that interested in being nice, but I am very kind. I'm serious. And so I
I love
think
that.
the blonde kind of counterbalances. I'm a Scorpio rising, like what's a very strong personality. And I've needed that. Um, so yeah, I think that it is fun, just plain and simple. It's fun. But the truth of the matter is this is an inconvenient truth.
Quote Al Gore.
This is an inconvenient truth, another one, a different one, but maybe just as important. I started working more when I dyed my hair blonde.
Oh my gosh. That's fascinating.
Period, full stop. So this was really a business decision for me, where I was like, oh, fuck, of course, every man who's, I would get through all the women and all of the development executives, et cetera, and get very close to getting the part. And then at the end of the day, it was always a man deciding. And like they see me and then they see a blonde actress, and I would always lose out the final. And finally, I was like, is it that? Is it just like, oh, I see that and I'm primed to think that that's beautiful or that's sexy or whatever, hot? And so I'm like, if that's it, because beauty and is so silly, ultimately. It's, I mean, I love all of it. And I'm quite aware that it's fleeting and it's artifice. So if it's just that, then I'll dye my hair blonde, which I did. And so that's the truth of the matter. And, I think so many of those beauty standards, it's like they're set so that we can never actually reach them, but I that's why I made the decision. I haven't gone back. I guess you'll know I've really made it in my career and I feel really comfortable if I go back to being a brunette.
I mean, I have to say, I've always wanted to dye my hair blonde, and recently, for some reason, I've had like a really strong urge to do it. But the problem is with gay men, it sort of like signals to the world that you're going through some sort of like existential
Major mental
crisis.
health crisis. Yeah.
So like, I don't want to like I feel mentally fine. I just want to have blonde hair.
Yes. You know what? I feel I'm always like telling my girlfriend, you want to do something, you want to get bangers, you want to go fucking get your boobs done. What do you want to do? Go do it. We've got one go round in this skin suit. You know what I mean? Go do it. Like this is not the renewable resource. Like we have one shot. So, yeah, I think you should do it. I think it's fun. If you've never done it, if you've never really done it,
Nope, never done it.
do it. Do it, Kevin.
Next time you tune into the podcast, I'm just going to be bleach blonde.
I love it.
Before I let you go, I wanted to ask you about one of my favorite characters that you've played, which is Jennifer on Parks and Recreation. It's so freaking funny. I was wondering if you'd tell me like what inspired that character, if there were people that you drew from to make that character. It was just so good.
You know what's so funny about Tinnifer, Kevin, is that Tinnifer has become, and I feel like even more so since it's ended, Tinnifer has become a very important character in my career. But I feel like I shot for half a day and then left. So to me, it was such a small little role. But I feel like it's one of the things I'm most known for now. Um, Here's what I'll say about Tinnifer. I did have an idea of how I wanted to do her. I don't remember anything about like the direction, or you don't even remember the script. But what I do remember is Aubrey Plaza. And I remember improvising with her. And I remember feeling like, well, Aubrey and I both came up in UCB in New York. So like we had a similar vocabulary. And I just feel like I intrinsically knew, because of the way she was playing it, that I had to be dead ass serious, not put any sort of commentary on Tinnifer, but just let her sound so actory and weird, but just sort of let her exist and be so, as my 20-year-old co-stars on Elle would say, be so for real. And so everything was that serious to Tinnifer. And I loved it. I mean, the writing was also amazing, like Tinnifer with the Y and two N's or however, and the idea of rebranding herself and constantly being on Xanax, like so much of it was so perfect. But I also felt once I saw Aubrey, obviously her performance as April is amazing, but once I realized like, oh, just how dropped in this show actually is, she couldn't be a sketch character. Like she had to be very, very, very real. So that's what I was going for. But also, like, Aubrey and I just had a blast together. She's so great.
I was torn between asking about Jennifer or the series for me that I rewatch the way that people rewatch Friends and Seinfeld and New Girl and The Office. I rewatch Happy Endings like 5 times a year.
Oh,
I love Happy Endings so much. And the episode where you play the bride who's getting married to Saoirse and Casey Wilson has this amazing crash out and delivers the cringeworthy wedding speech and falls down. It's such a good episode.
off the podium. She falls straight off of it. I remember watching her shoot that.
She goes, "Oh, I'm going down," and she just goes down.
And then she does, and then she does, and then she does.
So there's not really a question there. I just wanted to tell you how much I love that show.
Well, received. And also, that show is now, like, Casey is my best friend. And so just texting with her right before we got on this podcast. I'll see her this weekend. Like she's, so to also know that the show is created and run by her now husband. That show feels so special and important because it brought them together. So I love the show because it's so brilliant. But also when your best friend finds the love of her life, like on a series like that, it's like, it's important for so many reasons personally now. Yeah, it's very special.
Yeah, it is so special. Like I said, I love that show so much. I love Grace and Frankie so much. I love Elle so much. So this has been really fun chatting with you. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Kevin. I hope you'll be kind in the edit,
Oh, of course I will. And next time you see me, I'll be as blonde as you.
I can't wait. And don't hold back, That's the other thing. I don't want to see like a couple of little highlights here and there. We're gonna do it. Let's fucking do it.
I'm not doing frosted tips. I'm going all the way.
fantastic. Thank you, Kevin.
That was so much fun, June. Thank you so much. I loved chatting with you. And now we want to hear from you. What is your favorite Legally Blonde moment? Let us know. Leave a comment. And as always, subscribe to us on YouTube at The Obsessed Channel. Follow us wherever you get your podcasts. And if you like me, subscribe to my Substack at obsessed.substack.com. Thank you to our producer, Rachel Passer. And that's all. I'll see you next time.